Hello everyone and welcome to my kitchen for the inaugural episode of Dmatiqitchen, the show where I cook some potentially dubious foods. Today is a very special day in the United States. In fact, today is America Day Eve, also known as July 3rd. Remember to make sure that you leave out some domestic beer so Uncle Sam will come by and leave you some free fireworks. Now, amongst those traditions, of course, there is one that is above all, and that is the American cookout. From beer to brats to burgers and missing digits, they all help to make this season explosive. This year, I'm doing my part by making a pasta salad. But what makes mine unique? Well, I'll tell you this. Just like many Americans, I'm winging it. Now, pasta salads, of course, require their namesake. So I've got some rotini pasta to add a little bit of wee to the whole thing. Next up, I've got some pre-pimentoed green olives, some Kalamata olives, a creamy Italian dressing, pre-sliced pepperoni, and a little bit of feta cheese. Now, of course, with every kind of pasta, you're going to need some boiling water. So let's go ahead and boil up some water. Here I've got myself a sizable bucket. We're going to take this over to the sink here, and we're going to load it up with some water. I'll turn the tap on to hot to cut down a few minutes. While that's loading up, I'm going to go ahead and get started on the oven portion. With the pepperonis, I am planning on taking half and using them a little bit flopperoni, and then half I'm going to bake in the oven to get some cruncheroni. Now that we've got our water filled, let's go ahead and turn up the heat on this whole situation. Let's go ahead and turn our heat to high. For the half of pepperonis that are going to be cruncheronis, I will lay them out evenly distributed on this pre-oiled baking sheet, making sure to give each one of them a little bit of distance. Now that we've got our pepperonis laid out on the sheet, we're going to go ahead, take the sheet over here, and our extra pepperonis, set them to the side. Now we play the waiting game as the oven heats up and as our boiling heats up. Okay, just heard the buzzer, so it is time to take our pepperonis, pop them in the oven. As I mentioned, I am going to set this to 400 degrees, and they're going to bake for about 5 to 7 minutes, checking regularly just to make sure there's no flare-ups. Okay, the oven just went off. Time to check on our pepperonis. Whew! Okay, we gotta get that fan going. Whew! Evidently, they cooked a little longer than I anticipated. I set it for 6 minutes, but okay, what are you gonna do? Alright, now that our pepperoni friends are cooling for a little bit before we crumble them, it's about time we put our starchy boys into this boiling water. next few minutes, we're going to have to stir these little bits of pasta around. And we don't want to end up with any sticking to the sides of the pot. That was the word I was looking for, not water bucket. And generally, I like to boil mine for about 10 to 12 minutes, depending on the noodle. Okay, looks like our pasta is done boiling. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and transfer it over to the sink over here. Boiling pasta over here. Look at all that pasta water. There we go. We'll go ahead and set that aside. Next up, we shake it up, releasing some more. And our next step, cool it off with some cold water. All up nice. There we go. Give that a little shaking as well. Just ensure all the heat works its way out. Molto bene. All right, now for our next steps, I want to do a little bit of prep. We're going to drain at least a little bit of the olive brine for some chopped olives. As I mentioned, these already have some pimentos in them, so we will get a little bit of color splashes in there. And I just want to cut these into thirds, really. That way no one has to chop any big portions of olives. Did I say chop? I mean bite. Or maybe chomp. And we'll just go ahead, cut these up, and I will do the same for the Kalamata olives. All right, now with our greenies sliced, it's time for those Kalamata olives. Now these ones, being smaller, I can probably get away with just cutting them in half. There's so many, we'll just cut corners here. All right, and next up, we're gonna crunch up some of our pepperonis and mix them right on in. Be warned, your hands will get pepperoni oil all over them. Now, with all of our mix-ins ready, we'll go ahead and dump them right into the bowl. And I decided that we might have too many pepperonis, so I will only use a quarter package of the uncrunchy. Next up, we'll add our Italian dressing. And we'll pour some in to start before we add in our pasta. With our solid chunk of pasta, we're gonna go ahead, start breaking it and mixing it in together. After mixing it together for a little bit, we end up with this. And then I remember we still have some feta to add. And with that, we're done. It looks and smells pretty fantastic, but there's just one last thing to do. The official on-camera taste test. Let's see if I can even get any. There we go, Kalamata olive. Ooh. Okay. Not too salty, very flavorful. Got a pretty even distribution of all the olives, pepperoni, cheese, and sauce. Which means there's one last thing to do. Put on the lid and pop that sucker in the fridge overnight. So the next time you see me will be tomorrow over at my brother's house, where we're gonna get reactions from the family. See you there.